Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you are all having a great day. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. Distributed ledger tech startup Ripple saw revenue from the sales of the digital asset known as XRP more than double this past quarter compared to the second quarter of 2018. In its Q3 2018 XRP market report released on Thursday, Ripple announced that it sold $163 million in XRP, up from just $75 million in the second quarter. Most of the increase came from institutional direct sales, where Ripple subsidiary XRP2 sold $98 million, compared only to just $16 million the quarter before. It saw a much smaller increase in programmatic sales quarter over quarter, going from $56 million to $65 million. That being said, Ripple has yet to match its first quarter sales of $167 million. I can only assume that's because that's when the market was still going crazy. Year over year, Ripple is still coming out ahead. It sold $19 million in XRP in direct and $32 million in programmatic sales during the third quarter of 2017, where the cryptocurrency bull market run was entering its peak. Notably, while Ripple has previously made some mention of new customers in its market reports, to the point of it saying it saw the best quarter ever too, which was quarter two in terms of customer growth, its latest report did not discuss adding any new clients. Ripple also reported releasing 3 billion XRP out of escrow accounts last quarter. Though 2.6 billion tokens were placed back into new escrow accounts, the remaining 400 million XRP tokens are being used in a variety of ways to support the XRP ecosystem, the report stated, though it did not provide any details. That's great, and I still think that it's kind of weird that so much attention. How do I state this? The fact that their sales went up, and I'm pretty sure also the sales of the over the counter sales of Bitcoin and Ethereum, I'm going to assume have also been going up as the market has been going down, is still quite interesting, and I still wish that we had a proper gauge. The only reason why we have an actual number as to the exact monetary amount of XRP that was bought by institutional investors is because Ripple is a company. To be fair, Ethereum is also kind of a company, but I don't think they are doing the entire over-the-counter thing. But we know that over-the-counter sales have been going up the last couple of months. We've had news from this from, I think we had like a little blip from Gemini. We also have news like this often from Coinbase, as they are a mega company and they have to kind of disclose things like this as well, even though they don't officially yet have shareholders. It makes me still wonder exactly how much of these things are actually being bought offline. Yeah. I was going to say, I thought I made a mistake saying offline, but that was actually completely correct. Simply because I feel like there's more of a shortage of cryptocurrencies than people are actually realizing. A lot of people have gone away from day trading and stuff like that because there's not a lot of money to be made with the low volatility right now. A lot of people really haven't been paying that much attention to the cryptocurrency space because, once again, the prices are down. But what's been happening is that we've had instances where I can only assume, my assumption, that we actually have hundreds of millions of dollars worth of cryptocurrencies that are being bought at least every quarter over a whole, different amount of cryptocurrencies. And this is with the depressed prices that we have right now. So what ends up happening when the prices actually end up picking back up and people start going back to the cryptocurrency exchanges in mass and try to, day trade back and forth, and they realize that, we normally have news that, or rather we know which exchanges have which wallets in correlation to the amount of cryptocurrency that they have for that amount of coin. Like we know exactly, or rather a rough estimate of how much Bitcoin that Binance has and how much that so-and-so has and so-and-so has. And I wonder if these will be reflected in some sort of way from the over-the-counter sales that are also happening. Because like I've said before, I think first of all, I still think there's a lot less, I think that there's always been a lot less cryptocurrency floating around than people have officially let on. I think maybe, I don't know if they didn't want to have a panic. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but the fact that sales of just about all cryptocurrencies and all the institutional investors who have been getting into the cryptocurrency space have increased by 8 to 10 times from where we were last year, and the market has been going down. This tells me that there's a lot less floating around out there, and I wonder when the moment is going to be when people finally figure this out, and if it's going to have some type of a major impact on cryptocurrency prices, especially if we end up having this once again fabled 12 to 18 month bull market. But yeah, let's move on. So China's in the news. I'll try and briefly go by this, but it once again realigns with my idea that China is probably at some point going to reallow cryptocurrencies. An arbitration body in China has ruled that despite the country's central bank's ban on cryptocurrency trading, Bitcoin should be legally protected as property with economic values. The Shenzhen Court of International Arbitration published a case analysis on Thursday via WeChat, detailing its ruling on a recent economic dispute that involved a business contract relating to possession and transfer of crypto assets. According to the case analysis, the unnamed plaintiff signed a contract agreement with the defendant, which allows the latter to trade and manage a pool of cryptocurrencies on the plaintiff's behalf. However, the plaintiff said that the defendant failed and refused to return the cryptocurrencies after an agreed deadline. As a result, they brought the case to the arbitrator seeking the return of the assets with interest. So it was only for quote unquote 20 Bitcoin, 50 Bitcoin Cash, and 13 Bitcoin Diamond. It says it's worth around $500,000. If you actually add up the numbers, it's a lot lower. So I assume this number comes from a court case that happened a couple of months ago. What actually ended up happening is that the court ended up ruling that despite the country having a ban, Bitcoin is still seen as some type of property. So it says the arbitrator stated that there is no law in China currently that prohibits the possession of Bitcoin and its transactions between individuals. Further, it said there should be no technical difficulties in sending Bitcoin as long as one has a Bitcoin address and a private key. The arbitration court noted that after September 2017, major Bitcoin exchanges operating in China at the time suspended their businesses, but technically, that fact does not prevent the defendant from sending the Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash at dispute to the plaintiff upon the agreed deadline. It pretty much came down to, he said, or rather the ruling court within China stated that even though there is a ban on trading cryptocurrencies, it appears that everyone is legally allowed to own cryptocurrencies and they are legally allowed to pass it back and forth between themselves. And it makes me wonder what other thin line is lying in between this, as far as, we may not, or rather, I'm not in China. They may not be able to day trade with it, trade it back and forth on exchanges to try and make profit and stuff like that. But it seems like there is no illegality in being able to accept it as a payment for something, or being able to swap it back and forth as if it were property, if that kind of makes a lot of sense. I think China is, my opinion, still slowly it's really interesting because we've seen in the past in human history, if you are a country and you ban something, there's never usually this much like interest around it still. Like, you wouldn't ban bananas in your country and then talk about how great potassium is, and then tell all of your people in your country, like, have like weekly news reports telling them how great potassium is, and that like how you can use the banana peels, and people use the banana peels to like slip on them in movies and stuff. Like, China's been doing so many things that revolve around. Even in the last video, we were talking about the book that Andreas Antonopoulos wrote. They recently had that on the normal news in China. They renamed the word Bitcoin to blockchain. But why have this much energy around something that you've banned, that you therefore should not care about? I'm fairly certain at some point they're going to unban it. The point of this all is, rather, it comes down to, I feel in my heart that they're at some point going to unban it. But when they do finally announce that cryptocurrencies have some type of legality inside of China, it's expected, even now, even after all this time, that prices will probably extremely go insane, because this will legally mean, although they cannot trade it back and forth, but imagine if even like 1/10 of the people in China were able to or had proper notice that they were able to legally buy and hold and store cryptocurrencies, especially if their banks end up opening some type of, like the custody platforms and stuff like that. That would then also create a new type of frenzy in the market. And I think we're slowly edging our way towards that. But once again, China's in the news at least twice a week when it comes to Bitcoin. I find it a little insane, but it's always something very significant to the way that things are working with cryptocurrencies inside of China. But at least that's just kind of how I feel about the entire situation. Alrighty, let's move on. Next up, Marcus Swanepoel, Swanpoel, I'm going to say Swanpoel, the co-founder of Bitcoin company Nano, spoke about Bitcoin along with other cryptocurrencies and how they could be the catalyst for a new financial order, which would eventually overthrow the existing systems. He said this in an interview with express.co.uk. Marcus stated, "I believe we happen to be sitting in the middle of one of these changes. I don't know if it's going to be Bitcoin or Ethereum, or if it is going to happen in 100 years or even just 1 year. But the future of money will involve some kind of global currency that is completely interoperable," end quote. Marcus stated that he was not against the banking sector or the government. However, the banking system was built during a non-digital age. He further op-ended that the existing financial system was not flawed, but it was rather inefficient in the world that we live in today. According to him, cryptocurrencies have the potential to become a useful part of individuals' everyday lives, where their daily transactions could be made much simpler. He added that individuals were currently interested in speculating and investing in Bitcoin, which has resulted in its price becoming a major factor for widespread adoption. Marcus also stated that his company worked in a pragmatic way where they have realized the importance of working with financial institutions along with pursuing regulation. He stated, "We are one of the more pragmatic players in the industry because of the conservative way in which we built the company. We have been working with regulators since we began the business." According to the Post, Nicky Morgan, a member of Parliament of the United Kingdom, had warned the individuals that cryptocurrencies were operating in the Wild West industry and it required immediate regulation. That happened a couple of months ago, and I remember it was one of those things that I said I felt like it was I don't know if false flag is the exact term for it. I feel like that's not, but you kind of get what I'm saying. It was one of those things where the governments were all coming forward and they were all talking about cryptocurrency negatively, like during the exact same week, and then the next week you heard nothing else from them. This has been echoed a lot recently in the last couple, like 4 or 5 weeks. And it's kind of become a battle of Bitcoin versus Ethereum all over again. For a while, it was just Bitcoin is going to be the leader, and then Ethereum was kind of thrown to the side like a rag doll, and now Ethereum, for some reason, is like heavily back in the game. A lot of people have found a renewed faith in the Ethereum ecosystem. I feel like these both have a very valid, along with other coins, obviously, probably have a very strong chance. But I feel like in a world where, how do I even put this into words? For me, in order for cryptocurrencies to become an everyday thing, I think we're going to need a couple of things. People are going to have to start spending their cryptocurrency, which I think is going to be a very big problem, especially when you have something like Bitcoin that's right now 6,400, give or take. And we have articles talking about that Bitcoin could potentially one day, whether the next 2 years or the next 10 years, be worth around $100,000. That is not a very good incentive for you to want to be able to spend your cryptocurrencies. However, on the other side, if we end up, and I feel like this won't happen for quite some time. I feel like this will be like the hardest barrier to actually push through, and it's actually getting employers to pay their workers in cryptocurrencies. Realistically, if you are being paid in cryptocurrencies, and you need your, light, gas, all the other, food, your mobile device, you're more inclined to then spend that cryptocurrency. But I feel like none of the systems that we have right now are like ready for like billions of people to spend back and forth on these systems. Because as of now, I have a feeling Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin and so are at the point where people are more so speculating on if they will have a proper usage or if they're just going to be some type of a system to be able to hold your money. But in order to, we need, I think, being paid in them and having to pay for your daily life and stuff like that in cryptocurrencies is a very big indicator of where things will go. But at the point right now, it feels like to me we're still going to have a lot more hurdles to kind of cross through. And this is why I think I'm so excited for Bakkt to actually launch, simply because for a very long time, I assumed it would take us another 5 years or so to be able to buy things with cryptocurrency and go here and so. And I assumed it would have to be one of those situations where Starbucks and McDonald's and other stores, I can't even think of anything right now, would have to, like, install the app and have one of the little machines right there in order to be able to scan your QR code. But if it's going to be something as simple as from what I understand about Bakkt, is that organizations and companies will simply be able to accept cryptocurrencies as a form of payment. And I think it's then not traded, like it's sent to some type of like clearinghouse or something like that. And then that company is then paid back in whatever fiat currency that you normally would have paid. And this is what I read about the entire companies being able to accept cryptocurrencies as payment. When that happens, if it does go off without a hitch, I wonder how big crypto will become. And another part is that so many people who have been into cryptocurrencies for at least not even a long time, let's say 8 months, 9, 10, 11, 12 months to like 4 or 5 years. There's a huge thing right now. Like I told you guys before, I have no interest in selling any of my cryptocurrencies until I get to a certain number in my head that I know that I can buy property with it. And I'm pretty sure a lot of other people feel the exact same way. There are people who talk about that they never plan on selling their cryptocurrency, at least for the next like 10 years. How do you get those people who are holding a vast majority of the cryptocurrencies out there to then use it on a daily basis? I don't know. A lot of questions. And usually the scales, I think it's because of its name. Bitcoin has been the heavier side when it comes to the coin that could potentially be the global currency. And if that didn't ring any bells in your head, remember the guy who I'm pretty sure it was somebody from the New York Stock Exchange who announced that they believe that Bitcoin could be the global currency. And I can only imagine what the discussions are behind closed doors when they're talking about how they want or expect Bitcoin, or how they can get people to use Bitcoin so that it does become the global currency. That's all tinfoil hat stuff, so let's move on. Next up, ZedCash is in the news. ZedCash's core differentiator: Shield transactions are computationally heavy, so much so that most users and exchanges can't support it. Heralded as a privacy breakthrough in the cryptocurrency community, shielded transactions run a type of cryptography named ZK snarks in order to obscure transaction data. But a new upgrade predicted to activate on the 29th of October is being touted as a significant improvement of the usability of the protocol overall, but specifically for the use of these privacy-enabling transactions. Dubbed Sapling, the hard fork upgrade has been the primary focus of the ZedCash community. For the for-profit responsible for developing on the cryptocurrency since its launch in 2016. Yeah, see, everything takes time. Sapling has been spoken about for quite some time, especially this hard fork in particular, since 2016. Like everything has taken time, and I know it becomes a bit frustrating when you just want these things to be activated, but they're slowly being rolled out. Due to the technical changes included in Sapling, exchanges and wallets will be more readily able to accept shielded transactions. Light and mobile wallets will also be a possibility, meaning that users can send anonymized, why can I never say that word, transactions straight from their mobile devices. Speaking to the Gain, CTO of the ZedCash company, Nathan Wilcox, told CoinDesk the Sapling protocol will allow shielded transactions to be completed with about 100 times less memory and possibly 6 or more times faster. This upgrade has been a very long time coming. Part of the reason why ZedCash was added to the Gemini exchange was because there is a way to, you can send transactions that cannot be identified or read or seen through the network as like the, privacy feature, but there are other ways to have like unshielded transactions. And this is one of the reasons why people were asking before, why was ZedCash, a privacy coin, added to Gemini's? Because there are ways to make your transactions private and ways to make them not private. And Gemini's twins announced that they would only be accepting unshielded transactions. On this same exact topic, this also similarly kind of has to do with it. So Charlie Lee was recently in the news as well. Charlie Lee, the developer of Litecoin, spoke at the Money 2020 conference on Tuesday about how he developed Litecoin after being inspired by Bitcoin in 2011. He explains how cryptocurrencies in general are one of the best forms of money ever developed in the history of mankind. During the conference, Lee explains how fungibility is one of the key reasons why privacy is needed in our present world. Lee takes his point forward by saying that money is meant to be spent. However, the user chooses to spend it, and this is what makes it valuable. In a comparison between Monero and Bitcoin, Bitcoin is non-fungible as it can always be traced back to where it comes from. Hence, the Bitcoins received are not fresh, and if these Bitcoin were involved in shady transactions, the address for those Bitcoins can be blacklisted for avoiding future transactions. However, in the case of Monero, the blockchain is opaque, as in the transaction history of the coins can't be looked up. He further explains, saying fungibility is one good thing that is missing from Bitcoin. Charlie Lee explains fungibility as two $100 bills, a $200 bill is not a thing, are essentially one and the same. He then compares it to Bitcoin, which when transferred to a person allows the person to see the amount of Bitcoin the user has. He says that is not a good thing when it comes to privacy, and one shouldn't be able to know how much money a person makes. Right now, he said, there are some altcoins that are doing a lot of privacy-related improvements like Monero, ZedCash, and Tezos. And this is said by Charlie Lee. New innovative technology is turning blockchain upside down. What this kind of has to do with is first of all, I'm shocked that Charlie Lee spoke and said something negative against Bitcoin. I thought I'd never see the day where he wasn't. Anyway, even on the Litecoin website, if you actually look at it, it's kind of interesting. There's a thing right here where Litecoin is actually trying to put in confidential transactions into their system. I hope this ends up happening very soon. I think me personally, myself, I'd be more inclined to actually invest in Litecoin if they did have private transactions, simply because things are getting a bit shady and hazy in the cryptocurrency world. There are obviously coins that are meant to be used by institutions and stuff like that, but the other coins that we have that are becoming very popular, governments now know how to track these things. I am of the mindset that people should be able to use their money as they see fit. That's not me saying that people should go out and do illegal things. But if you have to go out and buy Pampers or some milk or some bread, I don't think that should be recorded for the entire world to see. Just my personal opinion. And this is now being echoed more and more. There's a lot of people who believe that the privacy coins that we have, or that we could potentially even have in the future, are going to have a major impact on the cryptocurrency space, especially as we go forward, because for a very long time, privacy features were being spoken about being put onto the Bitcoin blockchain. You don't hear about those at all anymore, and that's because of a number of things. I won't speak about them in this video because people will say I'm spreading FUD and stuff like that, but it kind of has to do with who is now in the cryptocurrency space, who has the money, who can move the boulders around to do what they want. The point is, I like Litecoin. I've never stopped liking Litecoin. I think Charlie Lee, or rather, I'm glad that Charlie Lee has finally decided to. He's more active in the community now. He talks. He still boasts about other coins, but I like the fact that he is now talking about Litecoin a lot more, talking about the things that he plans on building on top of Litecoin, and he even said before that he wasn't done with Litecoin. Very good. But I hope that this actually ends up happening. I give it a year. Apparently, if I remember correctly, I think Litecoin plans on trying to implement a ZK snarks. The same exact thing with Ethereum. The Vitalik Buterin has noted before, if you Google Ethereum ZK snarks, I'm pretty sure that Ethereum plans on eventually adding some type of privacy feature as well. And I still wonder how this is going to go over with the global elite. Simply because if when we see things like this and we're talking about, a global currency and stuff like that, I wonder how the people around the world and different governments are going to take to a cryptocurrency that is being used or has been accepted as a daily method of payment in their country or around the world, and the government or the banks can't actually view the transactions. It's all leading up to something quite interesting. I don't know exactly what, but I think we're going to eventually hit a huge fork in the road, and I think people are gonna, my opinion, people are gonna eventually choose sides as to which kind of cryptocurrency world they want to live in. Once again, that's my opinion. That's just kind of how I feel about it. So last up, just to skim over this briefly, I know this has also been in a lot of other, maybe 3 or 4 other videos, but we're getting to the point where Bitcoin's volatility is almost non-existent at this point, and it's kind of very interesting to watch. If you read through some of these articles and stuff like that, they're talking about that Bitcoin hasn't had this close range. Like, we're just barely moving between $100. Like, Bitcoin isn't really going anywhere. It's constantly moving the exact same numbers over and over in a straight line. We haven't had this since around April of last year. So that's many, many moons ago. Depending on who you ask, depending on where you look, a lot of people are still predicting that Bitcoin's price could slam down to the 3,000s or something like that. I was looking at something. It's really funny. I was looking at, oh gosh, what was it? There was something that I read about 2 or 3 months ago, and they were talking about that they saw a hyper bearish future for Bitcoin. Bitcoin wasn't going to go anywhere, and like their price predictions for Bitcoin. Let me see if I actually have the paper somewhere around here. I know this is a bit unorthodox, but yep, found it. Here we go. It says they have that Bitcoin's price in October 2018 will fall to 5,000. January 2019, it'll be 4,000. And by April 2019, Bitcoin's price will be 3,700. And by July of 2019, it'll be 3,300. And it actually all the way goes to January 2020, where Bitcoin's price is 3,000. And I decided to write down those numbers just to, gauge the accuracy. And there were also other numbers that we completely smashed through as well. Like, none of those actually even came true. At this point, Bitcoin would have to fall, what is that, around $700-800 to get to that point by the end of October. A lot of people think the Bitcoin price could potentially fall down. We also had news yesterday. I don't think that's correct. Don't even pay attention to that, not even joking. Because this, if you remember in my last video, I was talking about that for some reason I keep going through different websites and everyone is recording different prices. Like, I saw on one website earlier that XRP was 45 cents. Another one said it was 48 cents. Another one had EOS at $8. And then this one has it like at 5 something. Depending on where you go, I think everyone is recording different prices because maybe more exchanges have more activity on them than something else. Only time will tell. But everyone is waiting for that amazing moment where the market is going to move. Anyway, I just thought I'd touch on that for half a second. Hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, and or evening. Thank you once again for watching. Do appreciate all your support. And I'll talk to you all soon. See you.